President, good evening to the media personnel that came with such short notice that we have been on. This is a press conference that is being called between NUGFW and NATUC. As President of NATUC, and we have with me the General Secretary of NATUC, and also the FPD. We have a senior officer of NUGFW. So once a very pleasant good evening, and a pleasant good evening to the viewers that will be doing this press conference this afternoon. We felt it was necessary to call this press conference this afternoon because of the fact we are of the belief firmly, NATUC and also NUGFW, that we believe that the presentation of that budget that was held last Monday was lacking in substance. We are of the view that the budget presentation did not keep in expectation of what we expected. We are of the view very strongly that the budget did not address the poor class of people in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. We are of the view that the budget could have been much better than what it was presented. 4 hours of lovely words and presentation by the Minister of Finance. That minister said anything pertaining to what the expectation was, pertaining to the crime situation, the suffocation of the poor people in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and certain issues that we thought would have been dealt with. And in light of that, we felt it was necessary as an organized umbrella to echo our sentiments and dissatisfaction pertaining to the presentation of that budget. Because to us, all that it seems that the budget was emphasizing on was the $3 that they have given to the persons as it relates to the minimum wage. And what we have said, and will continue to say, that the $3 did not adequately address the situation pertaining to the minimum wage out there. When it is being calculated, it's a minute few that will really benefit, like security and so forth, security guards and so forth. Because even most of the people who have been working in the private sector have been receiving more than the 2050 to the 2050 that is now benefited from that aspect of it. So we are of the view then at least a minimum of $25 to $30 would have been much adequate to address the situation as it relates to the national budget. Because on a day-to-day basis we would have looked at and see where oil and gas have been escalating on a daily basis. And we are of the view that the budget could have meant much better for the people in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And most of the things that we heard was rhetoric, same promises that they have never fulfilled over the years. And most importantly, we are of the view that the situation as it relates to crime was not adequately addressed to take care of the situation as it lies present. And you addressed and said that you would have had 700 more to add to the 1,000 as it relates to recruits in the police service does not answer the question of the crime. The situation in Trinidad and Tobago, I believe that the whole country is under duress. People is afraid, we are afraid in our homes with all the home invasions and so forth. And we are of the view that the government who we are voting into office will have done something much better and more adequate to ways to alleviate and minimize some of the fears that is going through in the country. Take for example, I want to put on notice to all the enraged workers in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly that the $1 billion that the government is boasting that will be paid in the month of December, central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly is not involved. I want to reiterate that we are not part of that $1 billion that we think that we are in. Our position that we have taken over the period of time has been sent to the industrial court. First of all, the government had intimated they were referring us, but for whatever reason they did not mention our name because of the fact we had previously sent to the court indicating that there was a breakdown as it relates to the negotiations that is pending from since 2014 to the present time. And I want to make it abundantly clear to all those deliberating workers. Some have been saying let's take it, but the majority is saying no. That the 4% that has been offered, they must be taken into consideration that it began from 2014 to 2016, the first 3 years, is 0.000%. And the question arises as a trade union that is responsible for members who have been paying the dues for over the period of years, which they have an expectation that within that period, 14 to 16, that there will be some sort of remuneration that will be coming to them. And when you say to us that 0.000% for the first 3 years, meaning is that all the people, all the deliberated workers in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly that has retired or resigned during that period has absolutely nothing to get. Our concerns are, hence the reason why, that we anxiously awaited that the court should so decide it is in the month of January of 2024. We have started preparing our evidence and arguments to send to the court pertaining to that. And my greatest concerns are, for over the years we have met, even though I dreamt to be part of the trade union movement, negotiations, collective bargaining has always started with COLA, cost of living allowance. Before you start details of the proposal that have to be sent 6 months in advance to the CBO, the first thing that when you meet around the table is the cost of living allowance, where it is consolidated, or COLA is being consolidated, there is a fresh COLA, and then you begin the negotiation. To our amazement, 2 meetings virtually was held because of the pandemic with the CPO. Prior to that all the non-cost items was dealt and signed with our union and the rest of the unions. At the time, contractors, I don't even want to say amalgamated because they are broken away from the back and they go on. And the CPO never indicated to us in the previous meeting, neither did they counter-propose. Because when proposals are being sent, the onus is on the CPO to counter-propose what their intentions are, what would be deleted, what they would add, and so forth. And we were never told that it was the intention of the CPO that they will not be consolidated COLA. Notwithstanding 2 meetings was held previous. To our amazement on the day in question, when we went to the CPO's office pertaining to begin the financial aspect, pertaining to the negotiation, we were surprisingly told that there will be no consolidation. We are of the view very strong that is a breach of the collective agreements from since unions have been negotiating long before our times. COLA has always been the first item that is being negotiated, and then agreed upon what the new COLA will. And as I speak, the very set workers that have retired or resigned or for whatever reason is not in the employment of the public sector as deliberated workers, when calculated for the first 3 years, 2014, 2015 and 2016, each worker that have worked consecutively in central and local government and Tobago House of Assembly, when calculated, will be losing $18,000 per person. And the question arises, should we now stand idle by as a union and accept on the very said day that there will be no consolidation of cola, and in light of that, those workers who have worked from 14 to 16 as I previously said, and with the 0% absolutely have nothing to get for the period. We must take into consideration that those derivative workers are not pensionable. So in light of that, they have lost all the services that they have accrued over the years towards the public sector and the government. And in light of that, the 4%, 2%, then 0%, 2%, that has been offered. We felt that the union could not have accepted what has been offered. They have been boasting, and I went to Parliament on Friday and I heard the response by the opposition leader. I heard the presentation of the budget, and I heard the Minister of Finance indicating to the CPO, ensure that NUGFW and all the other unions that have not accepted, ensure that they are accepted. Brothers and sisters, it is ridiculous, it is disrespectful, it is a shame for the manner. The oldest government, I think, in the English-speaking Caribbean has offered what this present government has offered is the government of the Republic of Trinidad. And as a union, I have said, let the court decide, particularly with the non-consolidation of the cost of living. It's not that the government cannot at some time remove the allowance of the cost of living allowance, but there is something that is considered to be customs and practice, and we should have been notified that we could also have notified our members that there will be no cost of living allowance that will be attached to this negotiation as it relates to the consolidation. And the CPO said to me, don't worry, we will treat you all good as it relates to the cost of living allowance. To my amazement, when asked, what will be the new COLA? He said to me, $2. So therefore, presently as we speak, we are receiving $9 per day for the rating that in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. So we're telling you in essence, you will get $11. Comrade brothers and sisters, look at the cost of living in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. That is escalating on a daily basis. I don't have to mention it. You all know it much better than I do. And in light of that, I felt that it was necessary to let us decide, not in the other piece, but into that aspect of what they have offered. Looking around and seeing what is going on, every living thing that every part of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago where the government is pursuing developments and whatever, there is money. There is money for everything else, every structure, infrastructure, everything that comes about. There is money to address the situation. The only thing that the government does not have, I do not want to itemize the millions of dollars that have been spent in several projects, but the only thing that the government doesn't have is to address wages and salaries as it relates to the public sector workers that move within the aspect of the government. The work that has to be done by public servants. They cannot do it for themselves. If they have to go to the drains and clean the road and so forth, otherwise they will have to really catch with the public country. And to find to give that offer, we decide that enough is enough. Let us decide it somewhere else. And this is what it is. I am asking the derivative workers in central and local government, let us await the decision of the court, pertaining especially to the cost of living allowance, of which they are denied. The workers that have worked of over $18,000 for the period for 3 years that they have worked assiduously for the Republic of Trinidad. Secondly, we have a situation where I've been hearing bombarded and already the minister indicated that most of the unions have already agreed. I'm saying to the public, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, yes, the National Union of Government and Federated is one of the advocates that articulated the position of having the retirement, compulsory retirement age to be reviewed and to be set to 65. We are in support and we are asking why it is then that the government is so hesitant that you come and make a bold statement and say the majority of stakeholders have said yes, but we're still discussing. There are other unions, yes, that are not in favor. They ought not to be because of the situation, and I'm speaking primarily of the deliberative workers in Trinidad and Tobago, in central and local government and the Tobago of us. The reasons for that is, when I started to work in the Ministry of Local Government, Council at the time, I went there with the premise of working up to 65 years. So when people bombarded by saying, no, what will happen to the children who leave school and not done, what would they do? There is room for all. And I am saying that it's because of the generosity of NUGFW, the generosity of NUGFW by the then President General, because I was part and parcel of it, that intimated to me to get a meeting to discuss because of the economic situation of Trinidad and Tobago at the time. So those who run in the mouth and say, why NUGFW is supporting, they're not aware. And I am saying also why some children benefit at 65 and some is not. And I'm speaking primarily of the deliberative workers in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. I want to be very explicit pertaining to that aspect. The corporation of Port of Spain, the functions are the same. And they are working up to 65, they are deliberative workers. The San Fernando Borough, deliberative workers are going to 65. And because of the generosity of the economic situation at the time, in 1994, that was requested of us by the then PNM government at the time, that they indicated to us that they would like to have a discussion and conversation to reduce the compulsory retirement age from 65 to 60. So those who speaking out there is not aware of the arrangement. The PNM government owes NUGFW that response to bring back the age to 65. Because we did something to assist with the economy of the country with the premise. With the premise that was the arrangement that has been signed between the CPO and us on behalf of the government, that we would have got a pension plan for deliberative workers in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. That was one of the arrangements. The other arrangement was that all permanent establishments would be filled. That was the second. The third was each and every deliberative worker that has accrued 10 years and over as of the 31st of December of 1994 with a supplemental list to be deemed to be prominent, that came into being. And the cost of living allowance that was taken away by the now government in 91, that was, yes, we received the arrears for that cost of living allowance. We signed a principal agreement with the PNM government So the PNM government that is on office today owes all the workers in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly a pension plan. And the reason why it was not complete is because of the fact that they did not want to take into consideration the services that had accrued previously before that. This is why he was the Minister of Trade, I think, when he represented the government. So it's not something that we are asking or begging for. They know that. And we made a presentation to the government pertaining to that aspect. All documentation pertaining to a pension plan is in the office of the Minister of Finance. We're not begging or asking and saying. So all those who are saying it shouldn't be or it should be, they don't know what we did. If we had not agreed, as the other unions did not agree on that day, all of us would have been going to 65. And there are other stakeholders who have made recommendations that the country cannot continue to sustain. Generally, workers going home at 60 years. Brothers and sisters, check the entire Caribbean English-speaking and part of the world. No daily rated workers go home at 60. None. But the very same PNM government 2 or 3 years ago raised the judges to 70 years. And then nobody come up, the other unions and others who are saying don't bring it back to 65. All that has to be done, they have to amend the NIS and all this sort of thing to bring it to what it should be. That is all that has to be done. And while some people is saying why we go under 65, there will be options. It is the compulsory 65. As I speak, while central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly, workers go at 60 presently. But there is option. You could go at 50, you could go at 55. But we speak in terms of the compulsory, and that is what some of our members do not understand. Nobody is forcing you to work at 65. There are thousands of people skilled and outside there, young and ready to go, that they have to go home at 65 to end up working in CPF. But the very same government recruiting them at CPF, 70 and 80 years, that's not a problem. You know? Nobody has a problem with that. We do not have a pension plan up to this day. And I am amazed and flabbergasted that the Minister of Finance, hence the reason why I'm saying the budget is lacking substance, 2 budgets previous to now indicated to the entire country that the daily rated workers in central and local government will have a pension plan. He even went to the point and said how much we'll be receiving, some $3,000 or what have you. And now some of us, we have a tendency in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago with short memories, you know, and if nothing has been said, they'll come with it. He spoke with me. We made a presentation, and I told the goodly gentleman, the Minister of Finance, that we do not want to solely leave it on the consolidated fund of the Treasury to fund the pension plan for central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. I said we want a contributory pension plan. That is what we want. A contributory. We want to contribute to it. So you will not say to us that the economy of the country that is lowest held, and in light of that we cannot afford. We want it now because we signed our principle and you owe it to us because we assisted you in 1994. You know, we assisted it when you won, we won in 1991-94. And you was at the lowest ebb. You know who was the then Prime Minister? The Honorable Patrick Manning. And today it should be shameful that you have not honored what you have said and the generosity of NUGFW not to set a pension plan in 2020. Hence the reason why we will repeat that your budget lacks substance. Another aspect of it, as I was saying, that here you are, sometime in 2022, around August or so forth, from the prominent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, you send us a letter indicating that a committee has been formed, and the name of the committee was, or is, obviously, the Facilities and Implementation of the Plan. The Facilities and Implementation Committee. We have attended about 4 meetings. I am part of that committee. Street is the other member. You said send your representatives. We did. Other unions have sent. You have other stakeholders representing the Ministry of Finance, the CPO, and so forth, public utilities, comprised of that committee, a very large committee. And in your budget speech for 2023, not one word was mentioned about the Facilities and Implementation Committee that you of yourself. Isn't that hypocrisy? And those are the things that is dealing. We are saying, and we have realized, and I'm not ashamed to say, I have no reservation, this government is anti-workers in the They are anti-workers. Everything that they have done is not in keeping. They want you to come with plates with arms in hand to beg and give me that, please. You know why? They will ensure CPEP and you are happy is being taken care in a certain way. Train them to do this because what? They have the monopoly on those things. Because they could call and say, pull a bus and get the contractor. You know, to come and bring up to attend the meeting and you know they could see what they want. And I am saying today, for what they have done and continue to do with the daily rated workers in central and local government, they should be ashamed of themselves. Just imagine, this government, through the Prime Minister, has broken every aspect of the collective agreement. You went in a public meeting, a PNM meeting, and stand up and say that no vacancy should be filled. That has to be held until for over 1 year. How you could do a thing like that? You did not for one moment wrote to the various unions that have collective bargaining with the CPO, which is an agent of government based on the Act, and sit down and say the reason why you're not doing it. But being the dictator of who you are, you just come and say, no vacancy should be filled. That is a breach of the collective agreement that the CPO, who is your agent, have signed and indicated that every 2 years, the prominent establishments should be reviewed. Collective bargaining should be done every 3 years. You speak in terms of how they're not productive or whatever. And the point remains is, the prominent cadres or the prominent establishment in all the ministries have not increased for over 100 years. And you sit down there ashamed. You have a Rima Borough, we always make an example about it. You understand? It was 1 square mile. 150 prominent workers. Is a borough. You become 3 square miles, still 150. And then you come to say to us the transformation of local government. The transformation of local government is a disaster. I have been in all the meetings privy when there's Martin and Stretch and them on there. When the final draft was long prepared the other day to carry to Parliament, we knew nothing. You know what they did? I mentioned it at the level of the CPO this morning. In the collective agreement, you have what you call the grievance procedure and the disciplinary code to deal with dedicated workers in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. That governs the employment. and you take it out from that without no consultation and put it in the act for the transformation of local government. So when it is inserted in the act, it is binding, so it no longer becomes a negotiable position. That is what this government is doing. And when you jump it up and say, you know, PNM till are dead, well, are you will tell under this government how they have treated you as they need to do that. I think that I have stayed silent long enough, and the time has come where you must ensure, because they are asking members, asking rightly so, what the union doing, what they are hearing and hearing. You give them an opportunity to see, after talking, we talking behind doors, if they will remedy the situation, but instead of remedy, they become worse than the world. And I am saying, brothers, let us continue to fight the good fight, because you operate as long as you want. You know, there is a saying how you go out. You could do as much as you like, but not as long as you like. And the day will come when we will have our seat pertaining to that life. I will now ask them of that.
Yeah, comrades of the media, brothers and sisters, the trade union movement. And the labor movement position is quite clear, and we will continue to articulate and announce that the budget did not address the fundamental issue in our view that is responsible and has a major cause for crimes in Trinidad and Tobago. And you may ask why we are saying that. Our research would have demonstrated that where a country does not address the issue of living wages, where minimum wage, and we want the general public and our members to understand that a minimum wage is a wage that is the minimum wage is to be paid to a worker. A living wage is something totally different. And therefore, you must ask yourself the question, as the media, as workers, why it is that there is this insistence by the government in maintaining a minimum wage and not addressing the question of living wages. Why it is this government has a policy when question of income inequality, household inequality, wealth inequality in Trinidad and Tobago is growing and growing, and which is a serious problem to the very social existence of the people in Trinidad and Tobago. And no minimum wage. That is the historical fact, brothers and sisters, that addresses those issues. The issue of education, the issue of government public investment, the issue of ensuring that workers have proper wages and have a proper social net is what drives an economy to a level. And what the research will have shown, there are countries in Africa where they have a lot of wealth, but there's still inequality. And why? That is because of the fiscal policies of the government. In Latin America, it is so. But strangely enough, when you have a level of equality, like in European countries, which is driven by the question of proper wages, job security, income-led growth, and job-led growth, that is what stabilizes your economy. So that, comrades, if this government is serious, that is the view of the labor movement, about addressing the question of the poverty level, of addressing which translates into crime in any country, well then the issue of the minimum wage should not be part of the new narrative that the government continues to have in our country. And I know my little friend would ask me, and I know some of the members would have said, well, It's better you get 20, 50 than you get nothing. We don't share that view. One example, one simple example will be, brothers and sisters. When you translate 20, 50 into a monthly salary, you're talking about $3,055.65. Each and one of us know that in certain places in Trinidad and Tobago, to get a two-bedroom house because the government cannot supply low-cost housing for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and there is no low-cost housing coming out of HDC. Again, you have to pay the market rate. And you take that and you subtract it from the monthly salary. What the research will show, and I ask you all to do it, that a worker is asked to live for the whole month on $1,055.65. Nobody pays attention to that. And as a people, as a society, we must pay attention to it. When you look at all the crimes and within the areas, you're going to look at the houses, you're going to look at the people, and you're going to see that most of them living in dilapidated houses. That is a fundamental about poverty and crime in any country. Check it out, Latin America, the Caribbean, all right, and America. Take a look at it. So do not be fooled and let anybody make you believe that the minimum wage is what is to go. If I cannot provide food, education, and all the other things that is required for a household, if we understand what is the percentage of single parents we have in Trinidad and Tobago, and if we understand, I will give you an example. Because I was shocked because I hear the government was saying it's only the security service. That is not a fact. Go by Pennywise and Nazi workers because they talk to me. What is their wages? It's $17.50. And Pennywise making mints of money in Trinidad and Tobago. Right, so we have to take away from our minds this issue of minimum wage. And we have to insist that the government fiscal policy reflects the question of living wages. And don't be fooled. The issue in economics is about how you redistribute your money to your people. The government policy is to give workers subsistence wages and starvation wages, but they find money to do everything else rather than address the engine of the economy, who is the workers. And for those business people, I warning you all, because when workers do not have the ability to buy the goods and services, like will happen with the increase at 2050, your economy is going to suffer. You go through malls right now and you're going to see how many business places are shutting down because of that. And if we talk about any kind of policy and injection of our money in workers who produce the goods and services, who don't have the money to buy that same goods and services in economic terms, you're going to have problems within your country. And that has been demonstrated all over the world. And they could bring how much the opposition and the prime minister, they could meet and talk now until the power comes down from the moon. That is not going to solve crime in this country. Don't be fooled. That is a societal problem, and it is reflective of who we are as a people. Because when you could live comfortable as a government, and when people could say, well, if we increase it more, we have to look at the balance. I heard the minister say that, but the minister should have said what it is that the minimum wage board would have recommended. It's not 2050. But we are saying get away with the minimum wage board and go on in the question of living wages. If you do not, I want to repeat it again, brothers and sisters, if you do not address the poverty level and the inequalities, which is crime, all right, it brings about crime. We're not going to solve crimes in this country. Let us begin to understand that. You can bring up a board that you want to control the waters. That it will solve the problem. We have to start to deal with people before There's a saying that people are your most precious asset in any country. Alright, and what this government is doing like other countries, they look at the oil money, how much money they make, but it's not translated into the income inequalities that is required to keep the economy going. I don't know nobody for you know, studying our parents' days. You could have get lunch, you could have get a house, you could have buy a lot of things. Could you do that now? You know what the price for the course out through HEC now? Over $500,000. At $3,000, $5,000, $6,000. Could you afford a local house? No, you cannot. And those are things that we are not looking at. So we are saying in the labor movement, one, that the question of wage-led growth is what is important in any economy. It's a new philosophy, but this government is sticked in a mindset where you keep wages down. Are you aware, within the same public service that we are speaking about, the maximum wages that is being paid to public servants is about $7,000 to $8,000. That's a reality. And look at how costs would have risen food almost 35% over the last 4 years. Transport, when we did our research, that is our research, it went up to almost 45 percentage points. Look at house increases, all right? What it goes to, and there are some 3-bedroom houses that could rent in for as much as $3,500 depending on the area. That's a reality. And why are we not addressing that? And that is what we are concerned about in the labor movement. And we do not buy the philosophy of minimum wage. We are saying, get rid of the minimum wage and more. Let us start to speak about living wages. And that is a fiscal policy which the government can implement. And let me end by saying, you know the question of education. We saw so many investments in education and $1,000 book grant that people practice. But what is the reality with education in Trinidad and Tobago? How many children go to school and can leave school to read properly? Nobody don't want to talk about that, but we will talk about that in the labor movement, how we experience it. People come here in the labor movement, in my union, looking for jobs, give them an application to write, they cannot put 2 words together. So when you have a school system, when you're not training people for the world of work, when it's not digitalized, when it doesn't address the new AI and all these other mechanisms that is not driving the world of work, what do you expect to happen with the young people? Those are the kind of conversations that we must have in Trinidad and Tobago, and that is why we said that the budget failed to address those issues. And finally, the question of is not how much money that we put, is whether or not the money will be productive use, whether the money will generate income for the economy. And that is why we said you must look at the maritime sector, which is a gift to Trinidad and Tobago, which will generate so much revenues. We have been saying that in NATUC for more than 50 years, and the government is not taking us on. All right? So I want you all to understand that. And don't get fooled by getting $1 billion. Is a billion? He said, for back pay for Christmas. I asked the question, why for Christmas? You know, we ask ourselves questions. What is the reason why you want to give that money for Christmas? You know what the psychological effect of that? Who will benefit when you pay that money for Christmas? You see, and we as our people, we don't pay attention. But we have a crisis in the minimum wages, but you know you want to implement it in January. No. You see, people do not think, and they do not put their minds into deep thinking to understand. We know why. And that $1 billion, whatever, 25% going in tax one time. The balance is yours. And we know the culture and the behavior of our people. When it comes to Carnival, when it comes to Christmas, Alright? And I'm calling on the government, do not give no money for Christmas. Do not give no money for Christmas. For that was deliberately done, so that your friends and your finances will benefit. It's not to understand. If you're serious about poverty, if you're serious about crime, we say implement the new wages, although we don't agree with it. And I will end by saying, brothers, it is better we build a society where decent and living wages are paid to workers. The history, the research that we are doing, and I got a research paper, and I'll be able from time to time to make pronouncements on these things. It would have demonstrated, is that what would have worked towards eliminating the level of poverty and crime. And when you look at the areas, Latin America and all the other regions, in Africa, you would have a lot of wealth, you would to see what caused crime and poverty, because the two go hand in hand. Right? And it's not because you're making plenty money and you have money in the heritage fund, you know. It's not that. It's whether or not the workers, the people, the pensioners, the single mothers, the single parents are getting proper living wages so they can survive as a people. How much are they, when they get paid, could save money to work for them back? How much are they? Are they living from salary to salary? That's a reality, and that's what this government wants. And I'm calling, and I will end by the deceased Prime Minister of Singapore. And I love him. You know, Singapore smaller than Trinidad and Tobago. They don't have no resources, but you know they're the first 5 highest bracket in terms of GDP. Why that was happening? You know why? There is leadership. Let me repeat it. If there's no leadership and no vision, your country is going to die. And the question of crime in this country and poverty, because we have no leadership in Trinidad and Tobago. And I could go to other country, but Botswana no, leadership again, vision, where they want to go. Look at where they are going to their country. I could go further, and the point that I'm making, we could do it in Trinidad. We have a gift here, we have wealth here, but the wealth is not for me and you. It's for a certain group of people, benefits. You understand? And I'm putting that in all your mind. You see the talk about money in our roads, who benefits with the contract in our roads? Me and you? Ask yourself the question. And look who get one of the rewards that the government give out. Pay attention, brothers. Pay attention and continue, as I will end by saying, continue to ask guidance from the Divine Master and from our ancestors. Let them guide us in all we do and what we say. But they are what I'm saying. There's a spiritual war going on where people still believe, who looks like us, and they think like those people in the past who believe that me and you, because we are workers, we must suffer and we must bear and we must be beholden to the government by giving us less substandard wages. They don't want to see you survive. Don't forget that. Comrades, so thanks again for the opportunity. And we will not minimum wage. We want living wages. Say it. We want living wages. We want living wages. What we want? Living wages. All right. And government fiscal policy can address that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, General Secretary of NATUC. Forward from the media, you know we are now open to any clarification or question that you might think is necessary. Is there any questions, any clarification, or anything that's necessary?
I know that we have seen in the last couple of months other unions are 74% of the union.
Well, You have seen other unions.
Yes, but as you understand, he said something from
No, you ask the question.
Because I was just asking.
So mention the last argument with me.
Because amalgamated accepted fire services prison officers, all right.
Let us start with let us start with amalgamation.
All right.
Amalgamation start right here. Raising standards, let's see here. And they have decided that James Lambert, the President General of NUGFW, will lead the negotiations pertaining to 3 unions, NUGFW, Amalgamated, and the contractors in San Fernando. And there was very vociferous pertaining to the government that we're not accepting this and we're not doing, and it was good. They said all sorts of things pertaining not accepting the 4% that was offered. And to our amazement, they went behind our back. And about 3:45 before he signed, he called me and said, well, the G is signing them. And hence the reason why up to today, the rest of us who were there say that traitor and all this sort of things. Pertaining to the other unions, I want you to make an equation pertaining to what I speak in terms of wages here. How many unions are receiving wages that have accepted? Those are salaried people that very well, when you see the cost of living and the other allowances that police and all of them receive, they could run with that. And they themselves, there is a skit that was played, I think was the prisons that they had scored. And they indicated to the members that they were under duress. All of them that was said they were forced to sign. And they are not satisfied up to today pertaining to that. So we are not concerned about the salary union that have thousands of dollars per month that they receive as salary. We're speaking in terms of the poor man here who get $3,000 and $4,000 a month. And we know the reason why amalgamating today. We knew, but we will not discriminate. Okay, we know. So don't come and tell me all the unions, then the salary unions, they could afford to do that.
That's coming back to the question. I know that you're saying that you're reforming the industrial code.
Yeah.
Which you might also refer to by the industrial labor. Do you see that as because I know that is it the special tribunal you're before?
No, I am not before the special tribunal. I'm not before the special tribunal.
But do you see that there's a government budget, especially that President has been set? And I know you say that yes, salary workers and the I respect and I understand that. But do you see government budget, especially within the perception that the industrial court has only portrayed for quite some time?
You see, NUGFW and the President General of the Service are very principled person. And we are arguing based on principle. And if you were listening carefully, I did not elaborate on the 4% on that. I was speaking in terms of the consolidation of the cost of living allowance. That how it was done is not in keeping with the processes that is supposed to be followed. And therefore we have our evidence and argument, and we do not want to preempt what the industrial code will say. So that is where we are. You want to see something?
Yeah, comrades, again, we have something that we call principal customs and practice in industrial relationships. And apparently, the news media, they don't respect because a lot of people do not do the requisite research to inform people. I will ask the question, in terms of the periods that has been settled outside and inside of the industrial court, what was the wage agreements that the industrial court would have given to unions? Answer that. It's a minimum of 9%, a maximum of 15% over the period. Are you aware that Siemens Union negotiated a 6-year collective agreement? You know what is the wage increase? 70 percentage points increase. And I am not living in Mars, I'm living in Trinidad and Tobago. And if the private sector can give you, let me repeat calculated if the private sector could give you that percent on why it is that the government wants to offer you 4% over a 6-year period. What about the principles of customs and practice? What about the principles that we look at what the industrial court says to give us a guidance for farm wages? And I will demonstrate something. Port Authority, we agree with 12%, 2014 to 2017. Up to now, the minister would have refused to give directive to the Port Authority to pay that 12%. NIB, 9% over a 3-year period. The minister said, no, don't give NIB. Those 2 matters are headed to the court now. And what does that say? That the government, in terms of a deliberate policy of suppressing wages, do not want to give more than that percentage. It has nothing to do with money. It has to do with a fiscal policy where workers' wages going to be stagnated.
Yeah. And let us stand based on what Comrade and the set have just said. And you've been in the press for over the years, you will be aware of that. That in 2012, 2010, before the then government came into office, what they were offering, 5% we demonstrated throughout the country. They said there is no money in the treasury, all sorts of things. And in 2010, when they lost the election, you know what we got in 2012? 9%. And 2013, the last time that it was paid, we got 12%. And here he's saying to you as a union leader, they negotiated within that period and they refused to pay. I want you to do a research as my brother, you know we got it. Anytime that the PNM government is in office, check and research and see what offer they have paid to the workers in the government. They have always said that there is no money and there is no deal. No, they don't ever want to give wages and salaries to the workers in the government. So that's what they are hiding behind and saying no money. Check yourself. Have you been to Point Forte recently? Check. Have you been across the check? Have you found out how much money? Check. I don't want to go in all the details. You could do that. So when you're talking about this one to keep and that one to keep, they're free to take it.
There are 86 registered unions in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
5 take it, and we say all take it, almost all. How we arrive at that?
Yes, brother. Yes, sister.
Hi, Mr. Lambert. I just have 2 quick questions.
Yeah.
I know that the issue that you highlighted before the court concerns the COLA, but is it also...
Both the COLA, no, the whole offer of breakdown of government, the whole thing was, I would emphasize on COLA, but everything is there.
Sure, not a problem, and I just wanted some clarity on something. I know that some of the other organizations that would have decided to take the 4%, they raised some concern. I'm not sure if this is, because I know some of these matters were at the High Court. I'm not sure whether that just appears in the High Court or the Industrial Court, but I know that there was a 10-year period that was being argued that if that based on removing and so on, that unions would not have been able to continue their normal collective bargaining period, which would be every 3 years, and that they would have to settle for whatever is ruled within that 10-year period. Does that also apply to what you were talking about?
No, in the Industrialization Act that it relates to that, they could go to 6 years. But what I'm saying, the principle on which it was done is the same basis. Hence the reason why there is something that we call counter proposals. We are supposed to send proposals 6 months prior before the last expiration of the collective agreement. And the onus also is on the employer, based on the act, the CPO is still deemed to be that they would send counter proposals and so you could prepare yourself for the argument pertaining to what you're receiving. So therefore, in light of that, we were never, it's only we are not under essential services as they had offered 10 years and so forth. So we're not aware of what they had offered to the other unions for the union. But what I do know, all of them, privy to that, was saying no. Everybody was saying no. and ask yourself the question why it was given and by whom. That's the question. That's the answer. Is there anything else?
I'm just sorry, just to ensure the pension, the contributory pension plan you are calling for, that is specifically for daily rated workers.
This one is daily rated workers in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly. I was quite inspired when the Minister of Finance called and indicated to me and said about what we want. We had a presentation of that. And I said to him that we do want a contributory pension plan. When we made the presentation in the Ministry of Finance, he had agreed. In the meetings that was held pertaining to the Facilities and Implementation Committee that they have formed recently, we gave evidence and contributed to that. And I took that from what there is an insurance that we call the Unimed insurance that we enjoy. All public sector workers enjoy it. We have the daily rated and so which emanates the administration. And we contribute 1/3 and the government contribute 2/3. So I have my reasons for saying that we do want a contributory, because you see, when you are exposed to the consolidated fund, and there is any disaster or anything happening in the country, the government is free to utilize what there is. You know, and in light of that, we are saying that we do not want to be treated that way, we want to contribute. And we feel it is the best way, that it is of which the Minister of Finance has agreed to what we will do. To our amazement, that is being discussed by the Implementation Committee, but not IUTA was said pertaining to that aspect. Is there any other question? Clarification?
Let's regard me concern. I know that you have raised the proposal for pension for quite some time.
Before you ask, I just want to remind you in your question here, that was an agreement between the government in 1994.
I'm well aware of the history.
All right, okay. Yeah.
So I'm just reminding you that I made that statement last year. In this sense, what I'm saying is that where is the I know that you were expecting to see it in the budget, and especially in regards of, I know that there's a policy meeting happening right now with guarantee. Where is it? Because I know you don't.
Is
there a policy meeting in regards of developing, making the proposal, which was agreed to already, be enacted? Where is that at this time? You said that
this is at the Ministry of Finance.
But in regards to that, have you started any consultation and communication with the Ministry of Finance for that? Or?
I told you that we made a comprehensive presentation to the Ministry of Finance. You know what was the question? In front of two prominent secretaries, people from various ministries, public utilities, all were there. And you know what was the question asked by the very said Minister of Finance? And I could remember vividly. He said, Lambert, where did you get such a comprehensive preparation pertaining to that aspect of the pension? And you know what was my reply? I said, you know people, and James Lambert knew people also. That was my answer to that. So they were, and I tell you, up to 4 months, we had meeting 2 months ago.
But that's what I want to hold on.
2 months ago, we had meeting. There was a chairman and the various ministries were present. Street and myself is representing the union here. And we gave our presentation and also, and they have agreed with certain things, and I'm saying, but you're not even asking what has happened to what was before 2 budgets ago, didn't you hear it? And all that, and nothing came into being. So we are still there, and they owe that to us because they have signed on the principle. All the documents are there, and it is given to them, the present one. And that is where we are.
So in terms of the related progress, I know that some of them go to 65. Are you looking for something more than just being implemented? Because I know salary because some people are 65. Is there something that you want to be looking as a form of retribution?
Not really. You see, the reason why we thinking that, so all of us previously was the joint negotiating team. When the Warsaw Board and all those things had been formed, all of us were the joint negotiating team. But at the time, all of us were going to 65, as I mentioned earlier on. And I said when the economy of the country went at its lowest ebb in 1994, is then when the then Prime Minister requested of us. And the only union that was generous enough to agree with the then PNM government was the NUGFW. That is the reason why the workers in the rated workers in central and local government and the Tobago House of Assembly reduced to 60 years with the premise primarily of a pension plan. We got the arrears on COLA, we got the prominent establishment. Up to this morning I came from the CBO and we discussed the supplemental list that everybody would have accrued 10 years and over of the 31st of December 1994 would have deemed to be prominent. Nearly all the ministries have now been exhausted. Might be one or two positions again. And here we are. They refusing to do that. So who is suffering? Not James Lambert. Is it thousands of people that they are asking to vote and put them in office? Is there is the one that is suffering and say we read and ready? And today, we read and suffering. That's what we have to deal with.
Just a question, I know that you would have said in your presentation regarding the payments, like the government proposed to pay for public sector workers. What's your justification of when that money should be put on pay? What is my regard? Because you said that in your presentation that you want the government to pay the public sector workers.
No, I didn't say that.
Yes, sir.
No, I said let me repeat myself. Right, the trade union movement is still progressively, unlike what people may think. I made this statement. You are the diver that said why it is government wants to pay the amount of money Christmas time. Who benefits when you pay that money? And I went on to say, don't pay Christmas time. You should have paid the minimum wage workers and you know, not in January, but this year. That is what I said, and I will continue to say that. Who benefits when you pay back pay in Christmas time in Trinidad is the finances and the people who own all the business. We just spend our money, and after Christmas, we broken and we going to borrow money. Right? And that is what the government is encouraging because they know, and it was deliberately done and psychologically done, so that workers will have make noise and say, and he said when we get real money, Lambert when we get real money, Roche when we get real money. Alright? Baptiste, we want real money, take your 4% now. That is what they're trying to do. But they have people who are sense in this country. You could fool some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time.
Obviously, we talk about cost of living. The cost of living.
Yes.
At this moment, what sort of comfort will you give to the workers? Because I know these things take the process and you're seeing inflation affecting many sectors across the country. So what advice or comfort would you give to those workers?
To workers who didn't get paid.
Why are you in a position where some employing 20, 30, 40, 50,
What have comfort? I will tell them we had 4 years of slavery and we're still here. When you're stronger than you fight for what you believe in, you're going to succeed and we have to continue. It's on 13 years now. The government has been depressing wages. We cannot give up. And when they throw crumbs on the bed, we say in the labor movement, we want to keep on top of the table. The day is finished. That when we have to go under the table and we will sacrifice. For there's a man above. There's a man above. You know, like us, eventually they're going to come back up on us in this country. Eventually.
I know this is outside of the scope of the NUGFW, but I'll still ask the question anyway. I was wondering, since you were talking about
this is because I am aware that other stakeholders have made the same request. And I am saying that in another place where the country cannot continue to sustain the receivables to what they have to pay out. And in light of that, for us to survive in a very fruitful manner, it has to be done that way. And if you go on every island in the English-speaking Caribbean and outside of that, there is no generating water that will not cease. Go Barbados, Trinidad, everybody has one way beyond that aspect of it. It's only we scrambling here to go on. And the point remains is the equity of it, there is no equity. Why some of Wasa we represent the generating water than Wasa? Yes, we have all of that everybody. But they got 65. But I am saying those who is in line with us here, right where we sit here, amalgamated and them, they did not adhere to the request made at the time. They still continue to go 65, they never stop. When I joined the group working in Penang, I was amazing. At 65, I used to work on Saturdays. So it's not a matter of justification, it's a matter of the reality of it.
We find clarity again. I think what is missing is what Comrade Lambert is making it clear that he had a negotiation. There were 65 and daily rated workers in Trinidad and Tobago retires at 65. That pension, right? Monthly paid workers at 60. Public servants who fall under the Pension Act. So let us make the distinction between the NIB and the pension rights. And if Lambert and his union give up a 65 to go to 60 so that they could get a pension benefit for their members, it cannot be tied into the conversation that we are having. What is happening is the government have failed to honor the agreement that they had with the workers of NUGFW. That is the issue, and you see you're mixing it up. They reneged on it. The Prime Minister agreed. I was there. Stuart Young was there. The Minister then, Labour, Jennifer Batty's instructions was given to go ahead and proceed. And we must understand that, because you see, we have a tendency and not really delving into the real issues, you know. James Lambert and NUGFW, and we have been saying, have given up 65 years, right, to go at 60 with the clear commitment from the government that they would have gotten a contributory pension plan. That is the issue with Mr. Lambert, and people try to involve it with the other issue. Because a pension plan, which is a legal document, but we on the board, the monthly pay go at 60, pension, and the daily pay go at 65 pension. If I work 33 and a third, I can get full pension. If I work 40 years as a monthly pay, I will get full pension, because there's a pension plan governing that, as opposed to the NIB plan, where the government is telling you, if you retire early, which you're entitled to do, you will have to pay a penalty for retiring early. Those are the issues, you know. And I hear my comrade, it have actuarial evaluation that was done, and it is showing certain things. But the same minister said it have over how many people? 200 something people who are not in the plan. So the question is, if you know that, and we get that into the plan, how that will affect the plan or assist the plan. That is the conversation that we're supposed to be having, right? So I want all it to be clear before they get tired, the press with the narrative and not seeing what is NUGFW issue. And I wanted to print it. A government cannot negotiate, agree, and sign up with a union. And from 1994, and we 20. Yeah, with the CPO, which is right, come on, and then you're implementing it.
Never signed
Come on, that is the issue. Why the government is reneging on that legitimate agreement. And herein lies the problem we have in this country, as Lambert said. the Prime Minister and other ministers could go and negotiate on a political platform rather than coming round the negotiation table, which collective, right, ILO document says that you have to do. And it cannot be and it must not be. Because I as the Prime Minister and I say you can't get more than 4%, like the end of the story. Nothing at all. So then, if we live in so in Trinidad and Tobago, we'll go and bring back Papa Duck or Baby Duck from Haiti. But,
Alright, that's it.
Mr. Lambert, just final question from me, a quick question, I just want a quick answer. How many workers are we talking about affected?
Approximately about 40,000.
40,000.
40,000.
No pension, right? No benefit. When they finish work, nothing for them. Is that right? Come on now. Print that in the papers.